Hey everybody, we are back. We are back with another episode. And this one we are not going to take any time at all with because we are talking about the importance of healthy boundaries. I have my co host and the expert on this. So I want to get out the way and I want us to start right into this by sharing what are healthy boundaries. Take it away.
Yes, healthy boundaries. Okay, so healthy boundaries means that you are taking into account your values, your needs, and how you truly need something to happen. If there's a lack of some sort, right?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
a boundary is putting a line in the sand and saying, I need this not to happen, or I need this to happen this way moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So this is because it's aligned with our values and our needs and what's super important to us.
Okay.
When we take that into account now, we're able to show up and feel empowered and peace. That's the ultimate thing is what we really, really want is peace. So
Sure.
so
Sure.
when we are establishing boundaries and holding others accountable to them, then this provides us with peace.
So it's something for us so that we can navigate with other people. And we
Yeah.
are putting like that, okay, we're putting that healthy, like you said, line, okay. But how do we establish that? Like um how do we do that for ourselves so that we can be in that peace with ourselves and others? How does that look?
Okay. Well, first things first, let's start with an example, right? Like
Okay,
we're
yes,
gonna
yes.
think about your values and what's important to you. So, for example, let's say that you like um to not be disturbed before a certain time of day because
Ah,
you
okay.
like to start your morning with quiet, with worship, with so you don't want phone calls but before 9 a.m.
Okay, okay.
You don't want anyone disturbing you after 9 p.m. Okay.
Okay.
So now when someone wants to call you before 9 a.m., you can now set that boundary and say, listen, it's
Mhm.
important to me that I am not receiving phone calls before 9 a.m. So please wait until after 9 to reach out, and then we can have a conversation. So now you've made it very, very clear, very direct as what you're accepting and what you're not accepting, right?
Okay.
Now, after that, it's about accountability. We need to
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
sure that we can hold someone accountable if they are disrespecting our line that we have just drawn. So if they still call you before 9, you can now not answer.
Okay.
You can um mute the call in some way, right? Or you can even not accept their calls. And when we do that, they're seeing that, okay, I'm not even going to get a response when I'm calling before 9. So I have to wait
That
until
makes sense. That makes sense.
so you just held them accountable to it.
Okay. And I think one thing that we talked about in a previous episode is managing difficult conversations. And you
Mhm.
mentioned having healthy boundaries. So I'm going to actually mention that episode here too,
Okay.
because when I think
Mhm.
about holding myself and others accountable, there's a conversation that may have to happen.
Right.
So managing that conversation and that dialogue is going to be helpful for us as people in order to have active listening, perspective
Mhm.
taking, and
Mhm.
then a solution for those type of boundaries that we're saying that we're going to set because correct me if I'm wrong, having a healthy boundary isn't, "Look, I told you, get out my face,"
Oh,
and,
no.
just being very rude with things. It's
No.
not saying like or shutting people down, and I think that's what sometimes we're cutting people off, so to speak. So, navigating that portion too. So, if you haven't seen that episode, yes, I am plugging in our communication and for, managing and difficult or navigating difficult conversations because that's really important and critical because you brought that in that episode, I remember,
Mhm.
because we have to have those boundaries first. So I really appreciate you saying it that way.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, as we are now having these boundaries and setting the tone for what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? Like you don't want any and anyone to FaceTime you. That can be something that's looked at as more intimate way of conversing, right? So
Conversing. That makes
someone
sense.
might need to ask permission first. Is it
Mhm.
okay if I FaceTime you? Right?
Yes.
So this is helping to have that boundary and receiving permission first. You
Makes
don't
sense.
just want any and anyone just sending you a FaceTime. Now, if this happens, you can set a tone and say, I need you to text me first if you
Right, right.
to FaceTime, or I need us not to FaceTime before X time, right?
Makes sense.
But
Yes.
I know many people that they're not going to FaceTime if you don't have a certain level of relationship with
Yes.
a
Yes.
person, right?
Yes.
So now you can still set a boundary with who's allowed to FaceTime you,
Makes
who's
sense.
allowed to come to your house unexpected, and who's not allowed to come to your house unexpected,
Yes. Makes sense.
right?
Mhm.
So all of these things, but to start that journey, it's about taking note of your values, what's important to you.
Got it.
And once
Got
you
it.
better understand your values, it could be family's important to you. It could be
Yes.
respect is super important. But whatever it is, now what's lacking and what type of sentence and direct statement can you have for a relationship that has a component that's lacking for your value and your need.
Got it. Got it. Wow. So you you teed up or you shared some of the people that we can set boundaries with, but do you have any other examples of who we can set in a boundary with, or what does it look like to set a boundary with particular people?
Well, we can set a boundary with everyone.
Okay. Okay.
There's no
Okay.
one that's off limits, right?
Everybody's in.
We can
Okay.
set like even your children,
Okay.
right? Like if you have your bedroom and you don't want your kids coming in without knocking, that's a
Mm,
boundary.
okay. Okay.
Right? If you have your car and you need everyone to make sure that they take all their junk out the car when they leave your car,
Yeah.
that's a
Uh-huh.
boundary, right? This
Okay.
is something that you need. So you're setting the tone for what you need something to look like.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And I think what you said with family, it can get so sticky
It's
because depending on the family culture or the family norm or the family system, you do what I say, and especially if it's a parent to child or just depending on people's background, it can be difficult for people to establish boundaries. So, establishing boundaries for yourself, like you said, for everyone, it's important. In our families, it's important as well. And just being able to really understand that I heard, and we're going to provide information from Nedra Tawab. I actually saw her this year in person with her new book, and it was Drama Free Families. And she has a book called Setting Healthy Boundaries. But one thing that I appreciate her saying, and you echoed it as well, it's for everyone. So,
Mhm.
yes, it may be a family member, but you still have the responsibility and you do have the right to be able to set a healthy boundary and to set your
Definitely.
line. Mhm.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. I want to add, we don't need to address everything,
Ah,
right? So take note of the level of the relationship. Take
yes.
note of the level of what's concerning you. Is it important enough that you need to address it? Is it something where you can um, you can have some type of limitations to the
Mm,
relationship for your peace,
okay.
right? So
Yes.
take all of those things into consideration to kind of make sense for yourself. Is this something that I need to address, that I need to set a boundary with? Do I need to just limit my interaction with them? Is this a
Okay.
part of who the person is? And even when I try and set the stage for a boundary, they're not even capable of doing what's necessary. So, do I need to limit my engagement with them for my
That's good.
own peace? Right?
Yes,
That's
that's
important to acknowledge,
mhm.
because many times people just want to cut people off when it might just be, let me just limit
Yes,
how much access this person has to me. And
that's
that's
good.
a way of also protecting your peace.
That's good. And you know what? You're segueing this into to me the effects on mental health when we don't execute our boundaries. We'll give the book recommendations after you give this piece, but what are the effects that can happen if we don't instill or execute our boundaries?
Well, if we don't execute our boundaries, it's going to impact our mental health. It can cause us emotional distress. It can cause us to have physical aches and pains, right? It can cause us to go into sadness. It can cause us to feel anxious when we're around certain people, right?
Wow.
It
Wow.
can really weigh on us in certain
Hmm.
ways. And we have to remember that the body keeps score. So as
Yeah.
much as we might feel like we have it under control, our body can still be responding to the discourse that's happening within us.
Yeah.
So making sure that we're addressing it, that we're journaling through it, that we're taking note of how certain relationships and certain actions makes us feel. Um, and taking the time to have the conversation, to address it, to let the folks know how it's impacting you, and coming up with a plan for yourself as far as, okay, do I need it to look a bit different? And having that direct communication with empathy, with compassion, but in a direct manner. So there's no skewed lines of what you need that land and that line in the sand to look like. And then
Okay.
you developing for yourself, how are you going to hold them accountable? Because you can't make anyone do anything, right? However, you can
True.
establish for yourself, if this isn't done, then I'm going to start to do XYZ to make
Mm.
sure that I am okay and I am not accepting something that is not okay with me, because we constantly teach people how to treat us and what we are going to accept.
Say that again for the people in the back. We're the ones that are treating people how to treat us or training
Mhm.
them how to treat us. So
Right,
it is our responsibility to create those lines, to create those healthy boundaries, to have those difficult conversations that help us establish the boundaries. Because when we do that, our peace is able to be solidified, and we don't have to stay in a unhealthy, unrestful state in our lives. So
right.
I want to go to one thing that you said, and I don't have it with me, but we are going to link it in the show notes.
Okay.
You talked about journaling. So Shantae has a journal. I do have it, and you can write in it every day. You can, however you need to use it, but she has prompts, gratitude, and then it's even a verse or a quote that's there that you can write in that. So we're going to include that because journaling is very therapeutic and it's very reflective. And it's very helpful as you go through this process for yourself. And if you're okay now, I am going to start with the book recommendations because we have
Okay.
two. Well, we actually have three, but I will put that one and segue into yours. So we
Perfect.
have Nedra Tawwab, Detroit born.
Good to know.
She has her Set Boundaries, Find Peace. We're going to again link this into the show notes. A guide to reclaiming yourself. So remember the boundaries, you can find peace when you set those boundaries. And then her newest book,
Mhm.
Drama Free, it's a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships. So it also goes into boundaries. And what I like is that she gives specific practical examples for how you can deal with, like you're saying, different scenarios.
Love
And
it.
then for my co-host, she's going to talk about her workshop, but she has Brand New Me,
Yeah.
Complemented, Not Completed. She has her workshop, but her book is Complemented, Completed, and Whole, excuse me. But these are the resources that we want to provide for you. So, Shantae, you can take it away by sharing with your Complemented, Not Completed workshop. And you also have a positive parenting workshop that would be very helpful for people who want to establish and maintain healthy boundaries.
Definitely. And actually, in the complemented not completed workshop, one of the weeks we dig deeper into boundaries and how to have healthy boundaries.
Love it.
So that one is a 6-week workshop where we talk about boundaries, detoxing from our past relationship, learning how to not date the same person with a different face, right?
Mm,
How to
yikes.
truly have healthier relationships moving forward. So, and how to be complimented in your relationship because you are complete, you are whole by yourself,
Love it.
right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that workshop is a 6-week workshop. The other one is the positive parenting workshop. And for that one, it's only 4 weeks long. And
Okay.
you're able to get so much content with interpersonal relationships, understanding how to co parent more effectively, thinking about behavior modification, how to connect with your kids, but not losing autonomy, where you're able to have some really good time management for yourself and how to still be there and build relationship with your kids.
I love it. I love it. So there you have it, people. We've given information, we've given examples, and we've given you resources. Because remember, balanced relationships, it takes intentionality, it takes
Mhm.
focus, and it does take a commitment. But you can do it. We're going to be with you on that process, and we are committed to this work. So thank you so much for coming to another episode, and we will see you in the next episode.
Take care and keep having your balanced relationships.
Yes.